Happy March 13th. I hope you're doing well. We have an exciting space ahead of us, exciting YouTube Live. Markets are pumping. So there's always something nice to discuss. We're going to talk, obviously, Bitcoin ETF. My goodness. We're going to talk Ethereum. We have Denkun upgrade today. We're going to talk DeFi chain. We're going to talk updates on the bake side. And we're going to talk inflation numbers. Quite a bit of a surprise there yesterday. What else have I prepared? That's it. I think I prepared a couple of slides, just a little bit. And then, yeah, we get going. If you're joining us on Twitter or X, then we're doing this as an exception on my personal account because we were struggling getting live on the Bake account. And at some point it was working actually, but then we were already going on here. So as an exception, it's on my personal account. With that, let's get going. Sir, Fabio, how you doing? How is everything on your side? Give us a bit of the kind of big picture overview.
Well, another week, another all-time high. It's routine in general is usually not so nice. In this case, I'm taking it. It definitely feels. Still, it feels a bit weird that it is just jogging along like a staircase, up. And I just see on YouTube you opened the ETFs inflows with.
If I just look at, I really think the inflows right now on the ETF are such a good indicator. If I just tell you, we just had the strongest net inflow ever on yesterday, over $1 billion net inflow, then what would you expect price wise? And yeah. That's why it's so beautiful.
Let me ask you a question here, because I saw many people reporting this or covering this, and they call this the T+1. So if inflows yesterday were extremely high, that means that after business hours, whatever OTC or on the market, that these issuers like BlackRock or Fidelity or whatever, they need to buy these inflows the next day. So meaning that yesterday's inflows is today's price discovery or price action. Is that true? Or
I don't know. I'm not the expert on this. I listened to a podcast where they discussed this, and to me, what it sounded like was that there's actually quite some flexibility from the ETF issuers in how they can buy it. I'm not an expert. It was very interesting. I was on a mastermind call today afternoon where there were a bunch of high net worth individuals in there, and then we actually agreed on trying to get one or two ETF experts on to understand this very clearly on how fast do those net flows actually kind of have to be settled. Because you hear a lot of different ideas. You hear things where they are sometimes allowed to front run this. They are allowed to have to only buy this on the same day. Some are saying you're allowed to do this up to T+2, so up to 2 days. So I don't know. I don't know what's fact and what's fiction here.
It's definitely okay. So if the inflows would be correlated directly, and we had the biggest inflow day yesterday, that would mean we would have a big price increase today. That would be my logical conclusion.
Sure. I agree. It's bonkers. Look, I look at this chart. This is the Bitcoin monthly chart. It does look a little bit scary. I want to be very clear on this. But if you're watching this on YouTube, then you can see the chart on Twitter. Just imagine, one god candle after another. NGU only up. It does look a bit scary. A couple of points here, right? If we are looking at the averages, then we're actually below average in this cycle so far. So that's also interesting. So we would actually, if we would be on the lower bound of the other cycles, actually Bitcoin would be at 100,000 right now. So, that's obviously the kind of counter a bit. The other part, if we look at bubble like territory, we're definitely in some bubble territory. We are in this kind of bubble risk territory from April-ish 2021, so when Coinbase went public 3 years ago. A similar kind of territory here. I want to be clear, bubbles are not always bad. You just have to time them well. But at the end, bubbles can be very interesting. So, yeah, I don't know. What other thoughts you have on Bitcoin at the moment? Who's buying? Let's ask, like, who's buying? How much longer are these people buying? Is this the halving hype? Is this completely independent of the halving hype? What is this?
So I have a few thoughts. We like if you look at the charts and you, especially on the monthly, and you see these huge candlesticks to the upside, and it's definitely going hockey stick. It's definitely going parabolic. Everybody can see that. But then again, we had somewhat of a. It's not really a black swan event, maybe a white swan, whatever. The ETF is huge. And we don't really have a lot of historic precedents when it comes to ETFs on a new asset class. Like the best comparison would be gold in 2003. And we had, I think, 8 years of a bull run afterwards for gold, and like almost a 10x in price. And with Bitcoin, it's like all models tend to break. We never had an all-time high before the halving. Now we do, and the halving is still to come, and usually takes about 6 months for the halving to really take full effect. And there's like two or three things that excite me. So if I look at on-chain metrics, I actually mentioned this last week in a company-wide meeting. I pulled up some Glassnode charts to illustrate what was going on. And there is a few things that are super interesting. So the build up before the bull run until October last year, there was two things that dominated. So one thing was Binance futures were by far the biggest future platform with to trade Bitcoin. And the shrimps, so everybody that is DCAing and has less than one Bitcoin on chain, they were dominating. These were the people that were buying until then. And then in October, it kind of switched around, and Binance lost its not monopoly, but its market dominance when it comes to future contracts. And now it's just CME, it's just Chicago Mercantile Exchange. And of course, these are the big players, smart money, the institutions, and largely US driven. And also, it's no longer the shrimps, it's really uh, on chain addresses 10 Bitcoin and above that are really driving price action. And looking forward from here, there is one thing that excites me is so registered investment advisor bureaus. These are yeah, it's a US thing, but these are usually family offices and small institutions. Small companies are funneling their treasuries or their family wealth via these offices. And there is a rule that they are not allowed to trade or buy any assets within the first 90 days. Which makes the first day that these offices can buy 10th of April, like right next to the halving. And so we still have these two things coming up, which makes me extraordinary bullish. And if we look at the ETF inflows, there there doesn't seem to be an end in sight. It's just more and more and more. So these things make me extremely bullish. In the second part of this conversation today, we might be able to look into some of the macro factors like inflation numbers, unemployment, and of course the Fed. And I would say these are more the things that are on the bearish side. The macro is for me at least is currently more bearish than bullish, and but Bitcoin seems right now it doesn't seem to care. So who's buying? We briefly talked about this last week, that the theory around Jeff Bezos, that he was spotted on a boat with Sailor, and that he has been selling like 4 or 5 or 6 billion of his of Amazon stock. You had Bukele, the president of El Salvador, meeting up with some Saudis that went viral on social media. If they're buying or not, I don't know. And then you have the theory, the Snowden theory, and Grant Cardone mentioned that as well. That a nation state will be public knowledge that a nation state is currently accumulating or was accumulating for some time. Yeah, that would be the three balls or the three things that I would throw into the room. Who do you think is currently buying? Who is driving this price action besides Taylor, of course?
Dude, I really don't know. I mean, that was something I mentioned a couple of times. I used to know quite well because I was really well connected with some of the other platforms, and it was easy to kind of exchange ideas and say, hey, without kind of revealing illegal information that you don't want to share. It was still possible to kind of understand, okay, like who's buying, who's selling. And honestly, now there's only two firms that know. One is BlackRock and the other one is Fidelity, and they really know. I mean, everyone else is just kind of small shrimp now in comparison, and it's like almost impossible to know. Like whoever I talk to now, they all saying, "Hey, they are market takers. They are not making the market anymore." And in the past, it was like Coinbase actually making the market, or people on Coinbase, people on Binance making the market, people on Croc making the market. Now they are just takers. They are just kind of filling the ARB flow, and it's just completely different than how it was before. And it's really crazy to kind of consider that.
I have two interesting points. Maybe one just maybe the first one. What do you think? So MicroStrategy is among the 500 biggest companies in market cap in the United States, which would mean that at some point an inclusion into the S&P 500
Could be
would be
possible.
suitable. Of course, with Tesla, I think it took 2 years until they were
I mean, it's not
incorporated in
only
the.
market cap. There are other conditions as well. I think the gap accounting has to have certain requirements and so on. So there are certain other requirements as well. It's not just market cap. Yeah.
I would be pretty sure that Saylor did his accounting um, the right way, but I don't really know. But what a potential inclusion? A lot of people on Twitter they talk about this being a cheat code. Basically, getting passive flows from the S&P 500, buying up MicroStrategy stock, giving Saylor the opportunity to dilute the stock and buy more Bitcoin. And basically, yeah, it's basically somewhat of a cheat code. Getting free capital of all this. It's not dumb money. ETF money is not dumb money, but it's just I don't know, a fundamental, like ETFs are the thing. Everybody noticed that
Sure.
his or her purchasing power is disappearing, and the best way to counter that is a
Being
bigger
an asset.
ETF like the S&P 500. So
Yeah, being
everybody's
assets.
doing it, and this would be crazy for MicroStrategy and Sailor if they actually get into the S&P 500 and can profit off these passive flows. And I would even make the argument that um, there will be others that are going to try this playbook.
Sure. I mean, and it's gonna work until it doesn't work. I mean, at the end, right? I mean, the question is, if this is the only thing that's gonna drive the Bitcoin price up, and that's what I always kind of criticized, right? I mean, that's what kind of looking back 10 years ago. That's always what hurt me a bit in the heart was that the Bitcoin ETF is the exact opposite of why I bought my first Bitcoins. It's the exact opposite, right? So that's the only thing. I mean, obviously, I agree with everyone. Without that, the price wouldn't do what it's doing right now, 100%. But not a single person, at least in my opinion, that buys the Bitcoin ETF buys Bitcoin utility. They only buy it for numbers going up, right? And so that's just my only criticism. And so if that at some point doesn't work, then it could reverse relatively aggressively. So I think we just have to be aware of that. But I agree with you, until this potentially reverses takes quite a while, and we may see a $500,000 or $1 million Bitcoin price.
It really does seem to be a bit different this time around, and it's
This time is
like
different.
this time is different. Like I
famous,
recently saw.
famous last words.
Indeed. I recently saw two interesting statements, and I just want to throw them out, maybe for the audience to think about them. And I also would be interested in your take. So there was a guy on Twitter, is a very small account, not an influencer or anybody, that made a statement. So right now, if you're just starting out and you're being in, like, let's say middle class, and you have maybe $1,000 a month of spare income to DCA your way into Bitcoin. If you start now, you will never be a whole coiner. You will never reach the goal of owning one Bitcoin because right now it would take you almost 2 years to fully accumulate the Bitcoin, and price seems to be just running away from you. This was one statement, and then the top comment underneath is the complete opposite, where somebody said, so if you're a full coiner now and you're selling 1,000 a month, you're never going to deplete your coin. What would you say to those statements? Is there any
I think
legitimacy to
both
it?
are wrong. both are wrong. I mean, it's impossible to be able to sell $1,000 out of a Bitcoin for the rest of your life. That's not going to happen. And so that also means going in with $1,000 is never going to make you a whole coiner. I think both are wrong. There will always be this flattening off. It will happen. Whether this happens next year, this year, in 5 years, at some point it will. Like the Bitcoin is not gonna be the thing that's gonna, I don't know, control 99% of the net worth of the world. That's not gonna happen, right? It's gonna be significant, but it's not gonna be that. So that's just this. To me, that's the same crap as when people say that. I don't know, XRP is going to hit $1,000. So what is their favorite number? Like $586. It's the same thing. It's not going to happen, right? So, I mean, it's the same thing here. And to me, it's also, why do you need to be a whole coiner? It's just a random amount of 100 million satoshis that gets put together for a whole coin, but it's actually irrelevant. At some point, I really hope we calculate at least in milli Bitcoin, or like in the thousands of a Bitcoin, or I don't know, at some point probably in sats, but that's still going to take a while, because at the moment that's really not comfortable, convenient. But yeah, I think if once, let's say, Bitcoin gets close to $100 million, then counting in 100 millionths would be a cent, and then it's fine. So if we get close to that, suddenly we have, I think, even 0.1 cent. So then we're talking about 100,000, right? I mean, why not? That's doable. I think then suddenly, like a sat being worth 0.1 cent, that's okay. We get there. So yeah.
Exciting.
What
Just
about
maybe just
yeah? Sorry. What about, my question was, what about ETH? But you go first.
yeah, I wanted to bridge into ETH or altcoins as well. Okay, so ETH has definitely been performing quite well this year, especially if you consider that Bitcoin dominance is holding up pretty
Yeah.
stable at around 53%.
It really gave Indo in the last week, huh? In the last week, Bitcoin dominance really lost. Crazy.
Did it?
Yeah. Like a
Yeah, yeah,
lot of
okay.
out pumping.
Yeah, we like the high on Bitcoin dominance was end of February, February
Correct.
28th, at 55%, and now we are at 54-ish.
Yeah.
So
I
we,
mean,
we definitely had a
it definitely had a reversal. Yeah. But I mean, I agree. Ethereum has done really well.
better
I
than
mean,
most altcoins. So a friend of mine actually sent me a screenshot earlier, which they kind of list how far away from all-time highs altcoins are, and there's like a list of 30 altcoins, and you have like coins like, for example, XRP, Cardano, Doge, they're all more than 300% away from their all-time high, or they would need to do a 300% increase until they reach their all-time highs. The same goes for Litecoin, and you have others like I don't know, Internet Computer or Filecoin that need 2,000 or even 4,000% until they would reach their all-time highs. So it's definitely we're not yet in this extensive alt season. Everything up, everything breaks its all-time highs. It's very it's only pockets of things that are currently really outperforming or pumping, and it's, I would say it's namely mainly Bitcoin, Ethereum, and you have some meme coins, especially newer ones that are outperforming or pumping like crazy. And of course, Ethereum has two things. One is today's hard forks. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Denkun,
Denkun.
yeah. Denkun.
Okay. Which is happening today. I don't even know exactly what it does. Maybe you
I
can
mean, the
share
main
some
thing,
light
I
on
can
that.
quickly explain it. The main thing is that concept of blob space. And the idea here is that all the roll ups, layer twos, and so on, don't compete with traditional transactions to store into the Ethereum blockchain. And that's going to make that's going to just bring a lot of transaction fee efficiency into that entire space. The concept of data availability is really going to get improved, especially for the entire fee market, and so that's why everyone is just excited, because it's going to help a bit with the scalability for Ethereum.
Yeah.
That should happen today. So also on Bake, we're gonna be offline with Ethereum. I don't know. I think from 7 p.m. onwards Singapore time. I'm not exactly sure. 9 p.m.
Yeah.
But soon we're gonna be offline soon with Ethereum. Almost, I think, for an entire, not exactly an entire day, but just for the safety, so that there's no. So just please, if you're using Ethereum on Bake, don't panic. This, I think most platforms actually go offline with Ethereum over those hours just to play it safe.
So maybe this is just me, but on hard fork days, I don't touch anything. So I don't make any transactions
Yep.
on ETH, nothing until I read several statements that this is completely resolved and everything went fine. Don't use bridges, don't deposit, don't withdraw, don't make transactions. It shouldn't be that difficult to stay away for a day.
Trust me,
And
I think it's like always, it's like always this day, and then that's the day that everyone suddenly feels like I need to do it today, like today or never. It's always like you say, it shouldn't be so difficult. You have 12 hours. Don't touch your ease for 12 hours, and everyone's like, no, it's in those 12 hours. I need to do everything in those 12 hours.
and of course, after today's hard fork, we have another two, three
Potential.
months potential
Yeah,
through 3 months for an ETH ETF. You pulled up a tweet from
Eric
Eric, the
Balchunas.
Bloomberg the Bloomberg analyst that also covered the Bitcoin ETF extensively, and they say their approval rate or their approval odds are down to 35%. Should I just read the tweet or?
Yeah, fine. Read out. I think that's good.
Okay, so Eric says, yeah, our odds of Ethereum ETF approval by May deadline are down to 35%. I get all the reasons why they should approve it and personally believe they should, but all the signs slash sources that were making us bullish, 2.5 million out for Bitcoin spot, are not there this time. Note 35% isn't zero, still possible, and long term we think it will happen. Yeah. So basically, he's expecting a later point this year. Yeah.
Yeah. Altcoins. I don't know. DeFi chain update at that point. I think makes sense before we switch to some other stuff.
Yeah. So on maybe on altcoins in general, we
Yeah.
briefly touched on that and their performance. We also the last 2 weeks we briefly touched on is now the time to rotate capital. And maybe before we go into DeFi chain, just one thing or one point there. Um, if this time is not different, yes, right now could be a potential time to rotate capital. At least historically, when Bitcoin broke its all-time highs, we saw altcoins really kind of taking up speed and starting to outperform. But we don't really know if the same thing, if a broad altcoin season is going to happen this time, because most of the capital comes into an ETF and is not going to rotate down the risk curve. They are not signing up for Coinbase or for a bigger exchange and kind of rotating their capital down the risk curve. Of course, you still have people that came out of the class of 2021, class of 2017 that kind of know these capital rotations and that are already kind of playing that, front running that, expecting that. And yes, sure, it can be possible, but we might need to have a little bit more data before you can really make an educated guess. On DeFi chain specifically, so we saw we had that DFIP, DeFi chain improvement and proposal, that established a dynamic fee for the D token system for all the assets, real world assets that are traded on DeFi chain, and it definitely helped to stabilize the DUSD price, which is currently at 70 cents. And it definitely kind of washed out short-term speculators. We still need a bit of time to kind of see follow through, and but I would say it's already a success, that the price seems far more stable. We see more buying volume than selling volume, which is great. And we have so one important thing that I want to mention, and probably the most important update here, is there have been major efforts in bringing transparency through all things development and engineering on DeFi chain. And two of the main factors are there is a public Trello board where you can see each and every issue, roadmap, goal, thing that is being worked on, updated in real time, completely public, where you can hop in and kind of look where things are at. And then next week on Monday is going to be the first public community engineering call. So this is a call where a bunch of core developers and our head of engineering and so on, they're all in this call. I'm also going to be there. I think you too, Julian.
Yep, I will be there as
And
well.
this is a public call, meaning everybody can join and listen in. There is going to be a segment first. I'm going to open the call, welcome everybody, do a bit of the moderation. Then we will have some of the core devs talking about everything that's going on. And in the end, we might do a Q&A session where the community members can ask certain things or and so on. And these calls are planned to happen once a month approximately. So I think every second or third Monday every month we're going to have a call. We just confirmed today that we're going to try to have a recording available for everybody that cannot make it, because especially for Europe time zone, this is 10:30 in the morning. So for Singapore, this is 5:30, which most people should be able to attend. But on the European side, of course, if you have a job, a day job, it's kind of hard to tune in at 10:30, but there's going to be a recording. So these are maybe the 2 or 3 most important things that I wanted to mention. Yeah.
Cool. On the cake side, let me also update you on this. We have done a bit of a soft launch yesterday. You should be able to actually swap any coin into almost any coin on Bake. There's not everything is swappable into everything yet, but next week there should be another push where then everything should be swappable into everything. Test it out. One of the biggest questions people also always have is, can I swap DFI now? Yes, because we can finally now do the exchange thing. So this is something that was asked for a lot. We're definitely going to go into this direction. So now it's not only entering services and products anymore. Now it's really about being able to swap into both directions. So one big wish that customers have or had, we are executing on that. So yeah, if you want to support us, if you want to support the platform, then please use us for those swaps. We're going to be offering more and more routes, more and more directions. So just test it out where we are already and what we already have. Also, we launched the AI bundle, which is obviously one of the most exciting kind of coin bundles that crypto has seen in the past couple of weeks. Check this out as well. Very, very popular. So yeah, if you just want to diversify into the AI space, check this out. So quite exciting. I'm really proud of the team, of all the things we've built over the last couple of weeks and months. Actually, so much progress, and yeah, actually really cool work. So that's exciting. So check this out. Take a look. And you're going to see more and more, hopefully next week, may lead into the week after. So yeah, that's going to be definitely quite cool. Why is the fee DFI BTC higher than the other way around? Is it? Okay, didn't know. Not sure. Not sure. Okay, could be. I don't know. I actually really don't know the pricing. I don't know. Not sure. Could be that. Okay, I don't know. If I believe you, I need to check. I don't know. Cool. We've had a bit of a shocker yesterday with inflation numbers. I don't know, Fabio, have you followed it? I'm going to pull up here consumer prices in the US. I mean, it was not much more than expected. I think expected was 3.1, and at the end it came in at 3.2. But I think the bigger shocker is more it went up and it's not going down. Again, the Fed is always trying to go for a 2% inflation number. What happened was the market really reacted to that. And you saw this also with bond yields. Bonds really suffered from that, in a sense that bond yields went up. So existing bondholders really suffered a bit from it. And here are now the interest rate probabilities. And March, I mean, we have another week for the next meeting, and basically no one is expecting a change to interest rates. And now, even in May, and just as a reminder, a couple of weeks ago, people were already expecting a lowering of rates in March. Now, there's almost no one expecting a lowering of rates in May anymore. And yeah, we are now at 60% chance of June. So we're talking about in 3 months for the actual first lowering. So quite interesting to see this. There are calls from Jamie Dimon that say we shouldn't be lowering rates. It's way too risky. Yeah, quite interesting to kind of see this. Market really kind of reacted a bit shaky to that. Crypto didn't today. But Fabio, how do you see this? How does this tie in with the recession? How does this tie in with the soft landing? From my side, maybe as a thought, just at first, I think the Fed got a lot of flack from a lot of people. I would say so far they've hit it quite well. I think there's not so much to criticize because I think they had a really tough road. Obviously, I mean, the game ain't won until the time is up, and so far we're not through yet. But quite interesting. So these are a bit of my thoughts on this. What are yours?
So maybe I'm putting on a tinfoil hat for a little bit, but I kind of tried to pull up a statement and I couldn't find it right away. So I'm going to paraphrase or just my interpretation of the statement. But I think two things on inflation and the Fed. So the first thing is Powell hinted several times between the lines, not basically saying it out loud, but I think the Fed is going to adjust their inflation targets. I'm 80% sure they will do that. Until now, they always said 2% is the targeted inflation. And I think probably this year, they're probably going to adjust that and say, okay, look, it's 3% now or it's 4% now, because it's a different market and things have changed, whatever the reasoning will be. But I'm pretty sure they're going to adjust their inflation targets upwards. And then the second thing is many people, of course, the mandates that the Fed has is price stability and inflation, basically, to manage inflation and tied to employment. But I would say right now it's more they're kind of weaponizing the dollar, and it's more a deficit play and more much more tied into politics than people like to admit. And I think Jerome Paul is playing this game better than anyone potentially could. Like he's such an eloquent speaker, and he played, as you said, until now he played it very well. But I think they are going to optimize for deficits and not for inflation coming forward. And that's also the reason why I would say they're probably going to adjust their inflation targets. Right now, if they would lower rates, we would have a really probably potentially a big wave, another wave of inflation. So it's too early. They can't. I think Jamie Dimon is he's not right on a lot of things in my opinion, but he's probably right on this one. And I don't know. I can also foresee a scenario where they don't even lower in June, where we are gonna wait a bit longer. But then again, the elections are going to play into that as well. I think June lowering would probably help the Democrats and Biden, because in I think beginning of November we have the election, and so there's a lot of factors and a lot of uncertainty. Yeah, I don't know what do you think is a lowering in June on the table, and would this actually be bullish?
I'm not sure. I think they would only lower if the market really has a setback, if there's really a harder soft landing on the table. At the moment, it doesn't look like it. At the moment, the landing looks uber soft. It looks like a perfect touchdown. If that thing kind of changes, and there's a chance it does, liquidity is a bit on the dryish side in the general markets, then I do think they're gonna be quite aggressive on lowering the rates and trying to really stimulate. But if they keep lending like they are lending, then I don't see why they should lower. I mean, at the moment, they have all-time highs in the markets, both on crypto, stock. I mean, risk on is as risk on as it can be, and interest rates are as high as they can do them. So I don't see why they should lower. It makes no sense.
What do you think about so okay we have it doesn't matter what index you bought or are you're buying. I'm diversified quite a bit. I have some ETFs in India, some in Saudi Arabia, some I don't know dividend ETFs in even in Europe. almost everything is making new all-time highs, even
Yeah.
gold, and everything at the same time. What do you make of that? Is this something that scares you, or is it something that you say, okay, uh, it doesn't really send a message, but usually when gold makes new all-time highs, kind of signals a flight to safety, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, I saw this chart that gold has been tracking the liquidity also really well. So general money liquidity, and I mean, here I put up this slide about the a lot of Chinese purchase power is actually rushing into gold because there's not much else. The stock market in China has not been good. Property market is really struggling. So then gold becomes the only kind of safe haven there, if you want to call it, because a lot of Chinese don't have access to crypto. So I don't know. I see it a bit of on the one hand tracking global liquidity, and it does. Bitcoin has been tracking global liquidity really well, but I think it's not only that right now on Bitcoin. It's really the ETF that drives a lot. I mean, I do really kind of sit there and think, wow, it's just insane. I was actually speaking to a really good friend of mine who I don't know, just like myself, probably has more liquidity on the sidelines right now to put in if there were a setback. And both of us were sitting there and saying, "Hey, is this actually does this make sense? Should we not actually have had way more in risk on, and were we too cautious?" I don't know. I think that's a bit difficult to kind of gauge, right? Because I mean, it may turn on a dime and we may be wrong. And I don't know, everyone is wondering where's all this liquidity coming from. But the liquidity is definitely there. And you can see that the leverage is not as high as it is during these really crazy times. It's just there's so much liquidity, it seems. And uh, money market funds still have massive liquidity. I don't know. It's at some point someone has to pay the bill. But for now, it doesn't look like that anyone has to pick up the tab. It's, I don't know, at the moment, the party keeps going.
Yeah, like I'm taking it, yeah, especially
We all are. I mean, it's fantastic. I mean, yeah, nothing to complain about.
yeah, like you know, I've been sitting on my gold position for more than 10 years to finally, okay, look, sure, into 2020 we saw the run up, like gold basically had this cup and handle, and after the great financial crisis, I think in 2012 until 2015-16 we had a big drawdown. That was and also that was a time when I built the major part of my position. Of course, it is up a bit, but I was expecting and anticipating a breakout on gold much earlier. It's gold is a bit late to the party, but in my opinion, the breakout to the upside is long overdue. And right now, you have, of course, people like Peter Schiff waking up and crawling out of their cave. But I probably, you know, if people would love to look a potential idea, trading idea, silver and gold miners could be extremely interesting. Both are forming some nice patterns, and both follow gold in their tracks usually. So I think definitely silver and gold miners could be a potential play for the coming months. And yeah, um, everything else is weird. It feels weird. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm up nicely on my portfolio. Of course, I would have loved to be all in crypto over the last year. I'm not. I don't regret it. I don't think I would feel comfortable. I think I would be super nervous every night. I'm not. I can sleep really well. At the end, I prefer that. And yeah, I think that's always the key. So, I mean, that's just my. I mean, sure. Looking backward, shoulda, woulda, coulda. It's, yeah, I mean that's the key things. I think that was a really nice update. Anything else that we need to mention? I mean, that's these are the things that I brought. I think we covered Bitcoin, ETH, DeFi chain, what's happening on the big side. We covered general markets, gold. Anything else?
Um, I, I had something in my mind at the beginning of the session, but I
Let me
can't
see what
seem
note you
to.
wrote in there. Uh, no, halving priced in. This was the only thing, but that's maybe the
Oh yeah,
final
maybe
point.
just a personal question here. Have you received DMs, calls of out of your family or personal circle, or people, you know, in general, where you would say, okay, these are new people or people that are coming back? Just a personal anecdote or a
Not
personal
yet.
question there.
Not
Nothing,
yet. I
zero.
don't. No, I
So
haven't. So
maybe
I don't have those, and I don't have those typical candidates. Like I have my couple candidates. So I have a couple candidates who go into altcoins when then it's for me a time to sell. They're not doing it, and then I don't have those candidates that come when I should be selling. So they haven't come at the moment. What about you?
So I had a birthday party. My son, it was my son's birthday, and we had family and friends coming over. And funny enough, I had like my mother-in-law and a few other more distant family members buying meme coins right now. And I had a bit of a discussion with them that they
Dog,
probably shouldn't
cat. What are they
buy
buying? What is the meme
a
coins that they're buying?
dog with hat,
Uh huh.
Floki, Shiba Inu, and they usually they take $20, $50 positions in those meme coins and kind of
And then
it's
YOLO.
more gambling than investing. And I had one person that I haven't seen in like more than 5 years. Reaching out on WhatsApp and asking where and how to buy, and if the normal questions, buy now, wait for the dip, where to buy, what to buy, a bit of that, but nothing that compares to how all of this went in 2021. It's dismal. So and just of course personal anecdotes are one side of the story, but there's also data that kind of implicates, okay, is there an actual influx of people? And if you look at Google search terms, both Ethereum and Bitcoin are ticking
They're
upwards.
on the tick up.
We're
Yep. Still low
we're
in comparison to 2021, but definitely on the way up.
Yeah, 100%, definitely on the way up. And as we saw with 2020, I think in December, November of 2020, we broke the all-time highs, or we were in the vicinity of the all-time highs. And it took another month or two for the public really to kind of step in and for this being of course, if Bitcoin breaks its all-time highs, it's on the newspaper of almost every financial publication, and also in the mainstream media. Bitcoin makes new highs, and this is like the start where retail starts to pay attention. And usually, historically, I don't call me out on the days, but I think the moment Bitcoin hits an all-time high, confirms the levels, it takes 18 days historically for Bitcoin to double in
Hmm.
price until now. And uh, yeah, so the coming few weeks could be or could be very, very interesting. Yeah.
Cool. Definitely interesting. Cool. Nice update. Nice story. Appreciate it. Everyone, if you haven't done so already, make sure you're on the latest version of the Bake app. Check it out. See the swaps. Try it. There's going to be another round of updates next week or maybe the week after. So in the next 1 or 2 weeks. Also, we're going to launch another bundle. So those are very popular. A lot of you love those. So that's really cool. And obviously, I hope you have subscribed, like, share, and then see you next week on X on the hopefully big account again, not on my personal one, and then on YouTube as always here with this. Fabio, thank you so much. Everyone, stay safe, stay healthy, good fortune, good investing. Till next